Love, light, peace, and abundance. So, I'm making my way back to my YouTube channel, and it is my intention to post as I am led. And I had several videos that I have recorded and saved on my SD card in my computer. In my camera. And I've been working out the technical aspect of production behind the scenes of transferring and then compressing or converting and then uploading and then exporting and importing, all of that, right? And I'm also learning the different, what did he call them? The different aspects that's available on my camera. So, long story short, I deleted all of the data on my SD card, and it had to be like 3, maybe 4 episodes that I have recorded. And it was like, okay, I got a little emotional. I feel it coming up a little bit now because they were transmissions. You know what I'm saying? They were transmissions. They were messages that would be beneficial for them to be received, However, I'm learning that part of my purpose is to interact with the energetic framework, to interact with the energy field of creation and the collective. So oftentimes I'll record something, right? And it won't have any sound, right? Like I'll record it and I'll do everything I'm supposed to. I'll finish the transmission. I'll feel like, oh my God, that was so dope. Oh my God, I cannot wait for the collective to receive it, to only go and listen to the playback and there's no sound. And at first I used to kind of feel a way about it. And the human part of me still does feel something, right? There's the emotion that comes up. However, what I learned is that what's happening is that the transmission needed to be put into the atmosphere energetically. However, it wasn't necessarily intended for anyone else to hear. It's for their ears to be graced with the words of the transmission, right? Because you'll still get to experience it energetically regardless if you ever heard the words. And that's been part of my process, part of my initiation into returning to a space where my voice is the vessel. My voice is the sacred tool, my sacred tool, the tool that is utilized for source to be heard and to be felt, and to be known for that matter. So I immediately transition my thoughts from feeling away, because I feel like, oh my God, if I just left it alone and waited for the person that's teaching me all of these things, then I wouldn't have deleted it. And then I had to stop myself and be like, however, everything happens the way that it's supposed to happen. Everything is in divine alignment. So apparently the unseen is showing me that I need to start off fresh, right? And then I'm thinking about the energy that I was in, and still stabilizing and integrating and embodying and becoming and all of those things. However, I'm much further along, than I was back then. I'm a lot more grounded. I'm a lot more confident. I'm a lot more rooted in my remembrance of who I am and why I'm here. So I had to shake it off. I had to shake it off. And my spirit team is encouraging me to just hit record, right? So just hit record and show up and allow what's going to flow to flow. Normally I like to channel, receive a download, and then share the communication, except for when I do my podcast. So I have a podcast called Poetry Unraveled, and in that particular podcast, it's a combination of spirituality and poetry. And I open up the channel and I share whatever comes through that spirit has for me to share with the collective. And then at the conclusion, I share a poetic expression that I've written that may or may not be perfectly aligned with the message. However, it's always resonant for me to share that particular poetic expression. The beginning of that, actually the whole thing, I very rarely know what I'm going to speak about. And the episode is 30 minutes. So the last, like, I usually try to do like 3 to 5 minutes for the poem. And then the other 25, 27 minutes is me sharing or opening the channel. So that's the only other time that I do this, where I just open it up and I just speak. And it's going to take a little getting used to. I'm not even going to front, because I don't know. I just feel like my expression is different, right? Most people, they use the tarot cards, they use the oracle cards, they use the runes, they use different physical tools, right? Scrying. And I can do those things. Not quite scrying. I haven't quite gotten a handle on that just yet, even though it does speak to my spirit. However, the cards and all of that, like, I can. However, it doesn't resonate that that's what I'm supposed to do. I feel like when I do it now, before I did it, it was like for me to get my feet wet. However, now when I do it, if I do it consistently, it's like I'm utilizing it as a crutch, instead of just showing up and being comfortable in the skin that I'm in. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I'm in a new space, and I hit the record button, y'all. I hit the record button, and I'm looking forward to growing community. You know, I'm looking forward to attracting those that are in alignment with the same frequency that I radiate, the same vibration that I operate on. And I look forward to continuous growth, right? For us holding space and evolving together in our remembrance, right? And I'm not sure if I ever did a video on it and posted it on YouTube. I'm not sure. However, during my hibernation and during the process of really going inward and healing and releasing and even recognizing, right? Like, part of my process has been to really recognize what I've transversed, what I've gone through, and to recognize that I was transmuting throughout my process, right? Like, these words are new to me in the reality of what they mean within the last like 3 to 4 years, right? The last 3 to 4 years of my expansion and my remembrance. And once I did that, right, like being in that process of like recognizing who was who in my life, and like why I experienced the different things, and why was I treated the way that I was treated, and why did I have to go through a lot of the things that I went through. Because if I were to tell y'all my story, it's not even a story. If I were to tell you all the account of memories and experiences that I've lived, you'd be like, girl, what? Like, you sure you okay? Is you sure you are all right? I remember one time I was going out on a date with this guy, and he was a mental, he was something to deal with the thought process. I don't remember exactly what his title was. However, he was really sweet. And I shared with him, like, I was going through a major transition in my life at that time. And I had just recently gotten divorced, and like everything in my world was changing. Everything was changing. And not only was I having to navigate the changes that was taking place, I had children. I had multiple children, multiple ages, that I also had to navigate what was happening with them and my relationship with them. And then on top of that, to add more weight onto it, I was around people that was judging me through my process, like the whole entire fucking time. Excuse my language, because I don't know if I don't know if YouTube let you, you know, school with you, cousin. But yeah, the whole time, like, I was going through judgment the whole entire time. And I don't know if you've ever been in a situation where you're trying to navigate new terrain and like while trying to hold the shit together, right? Like, I really could have just broke down, right? Because a lot of things was happening, and like on the 3D surface, from the words I understood what was happening, but it always felt like from the unseen, from the energetic standpoint, it was so much more that was happening, and I didn't understand why. And I remember finding myself like crying out to the Most High, like, what did I do? Right? What did I do to deserve being in this position? Because when I got married for forever, right? Like, I had never had any intention on seeing anybody else, being with anybody else. Matter of fact, you couldn't tell me that the husband that I had at the time wasn't the best thing since sliced bread. You just couldn't tell me that, because I was so locked in and committed to what I had agreed, right? Like, what I had agreed. And the crazy thing is that he wasn't even on the 3D. He wasn't even my type. Like, he wasn't, and I don't necessarily have a type per se, because if you look at the people I've dated, you're like, girl. However, he wasn't someone that I would have initially been attracted to. You know what I'm saying? So I knew that all of it was divine. All of it was a spiritual reason as to why the unfolding took place the way that it was. However, in going through all of that, excuse me, it was quite a bit that I had to realize. Like, I had to, I was able to no longer be in the survival mode of protecting myself. I feel like ego, and I'm going to say ego loosely because everybody has a different perspective of it, of what ego is. However, I understand ego to be a shield, right? Like a defense mechanism, an alter, I don't even want to say alter ego, because that's not how I think of it. Because I really think of it like, it's like a shield. It's something that we develop to protect the inner core of who we are, right? Like the soft spots, because the soft spots need to be protected so that they're not ruined, so that they're not destroyed, right? And I feel like at any point prior to this time that I'm referring to, had I stopped to like look at what was actually taking place, right? Like I wouldn't have took it too well. You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't have responded the best. Like, I feel like I would have really spiraled. And even though I feel like I was, spiraling energetically, I feel like it was energetically. So it was unseen. But I feel like had I really dug deep and like really allowed myself to see how I was used, how I was manipulated, how I was abused, how I was mistreated, how I was neglected for what it really was, I physically would have spiraled, right? And that wouldn't have been good for nobody, especially since I had babies that I needed to be, I needed to maintain a level of sanity for, right? So I went through this process of healing and like digging deep and shedding and releasing all of the layers that was placed on me that I thought was me, but it wasn't. It was given to me. It was put on me, and I accepted it, right? Until I did it. And there's a video that I did some time back where I spoke about the idea of releasing the costume that was given to you. Because mind you, while I was going through this process, I was still recording. So I was documenting my evolution. I was documenting the deconstruction. I was documenting the healing. I was documenting all of that so that, one, because it resonated. It resonated for me to share. It resonated for me to speak up and express myself. Excuse me. So I did that. Secondly, it's always my intention for others to be able to learn from what it is that I've gone through. I feel like with all the experiences that I've had and the short time that I've been here, it's got to be for a bigger purpose, a bigger reason. And if I can assist others by the experiences that I've gone through, and not necessarily for the physical experiences, however, for the principles, right? The principles that are woven into what I went through and how I navigated it to get on the other side, then I much rather share them so that others who might find themselves going through the same tunnel, of that principle, or they want to avoid, what I'm saying? Like, If you know the principle ahead of time, then you can see different signs based on what I experience in the 3D, so that you can navigate with grace. You know what I'm saying? Through the tumultuous events that happen being here on Earth. And so I find that I'm being called even more to share my voice, which is why I have the podcast, I post the TikToks, and now, and I write poetry, and I perform the poetry at open mics when it resonates. And I wrote a book. It's a guide in assisting you to recognizing your divine purpose and being here, helping you to remember who you are and why you came here. And so I did that, and then I just opened up a page on Ko-fi where I can share different transmissions that I have, that I receive, different audio files, because there's right now I have it's a clearing. It's excuse me, let me get my words together. A visualization meditation that assists you in clearing your energy, your auric field, your energetic body, and ground you, right? And to replenish yourself. So I have that over there. And then I also have what I call the Builder's Blueprint, which is a series of downloads and transmissions, and me speaking as the temple, the mother of the temple, the empress, the priestess that I am. And that is an audio. I recorded myself reading it so that it'll be easier for you to intake, and you can listen to it while you're going to sleep, or whatever the case may be, however it resonates for you, because I know we're all different. So that's available over on Ko-fi. So I'll have all of those links in the description box. However, I said all that to say, like, I've still been in motion. I've still been sharing. I've still been creating. I've still been in alignment with my purpose. However, there was just a period in time where I didn't understand the fullness of it. And this is where Temple of Divine Remembrance comes in, because I walked the path of remembering who I am and what I came here for, right? And I'm not saying that I reached the final destination of that, because truth continues to evolve, right? And the more that we grow and the more that we ready, the more that is given to us, the more that's shared with us, the more that's shown to us. And the more I live in my purpose, the more I'll see the expansiveness of my purpose, right? However, I'm clear on what my purpose is. I'm clear why I came here. I'm clear on the things that I experienced and why they were unique to me. And I even have clarity and connection to past lives, right? And why certain things in this lifetime just come so natural to me, because of what I have lived and experienced and cultivated and mastered in my past lifetimes, to be sure that I was ready for this lifetime right here, which is assisting in grounding New Earth, right? And people speak about New Earth, and I don't position myself to say that any one thing is the absolute, right? Because I understand from my own journey that we all have the potential to express a fraction of the whole, because we are all emanations of source. We are all source embodied, and it's up to us. So it seems like no matter how much I make sure the battery is charged, it still dies on me when I'm recording. However, the beautiful thing is that I have more than one battery, so I'm able to switch it out really quickly. However, now I have to remember where I was at when I was speaking. I don't remember. So I'm just gonna go where it resonates. And I'm grateful for the journey. I'm grateful for the different experiences. I'm grateful for having the determination, the trust, and the courage, right? It takes, woo, child, it takes courage. It takes some real courage to pursue a spiritual, embarking on a spiritual path, because nothing about it is conventional. Everything about it challenges, questions, or debunks the standard that the world has given us, right? And it's so crazy because the things that have been given to us as the standard don't even resonate with our being, right? Like, it doesn't resonate to get up early in the morning, to go to a place that you don't even want to be at, to be there for 8 hours around people you don't want to be around, to work for money that you don't want to even be working for, to get the money to pay the bills that you don't even want to be paying in the first place, to then only have 2 days to recoup from the 5 days that you've been operating like this, and you're expected to be able to incorporate all of the things that your spirit wants to do, your soul wants to do, your physical needs, your household responsibilities, your adulting responsibilities. It's just like, it's like the whole system is designed to keep us out of a rhythm that's in tune with what speaks to our heart, what speaks to our nature, what speaks to our spirit. And there's a way to break out of that, right? Like, there is a way to break out of it, and it may be different for everybody, right? Like, I'm not here to say like I got all the answers, because I'm not saying that I do. However, what I am saying, and what I am here to say and do, is to say that there are answers, and they're inside of you, right? Because we're all different expressions, and what worked for me, my situation and my dynamics were different than yours, so it may not work for you, right? I have a different set of gifts and tools and abilities that you may not have, right? I walked a different path across several lifetimes in different dimensions that you may not have walked. So I'm not by any means presenting myself as someone that I want you to do what I did or follow what I followed, or, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know how to say that, but I trust that you understand what I'm saying. However, I do want to be an example. Matter of fact, I was told I am an example, right? Of the fact that it can be done, right? You can follow your heart. You can trust yourself. You don't need somebody outside of you. Excuse me, my vessel is being filled up with a lot of energy right now. And when my body is receiving it and processing it and grounding it, it comes out in tears, right? The body releases the energy in tears, which is why it's important to allow yourself to cry, because you're processing and you're releasing energy. And if you keep the tears in, then you're holding the energy in, and that's not good. So we can trust ourselves, right? We don't need someone outside of us to tell us what our connection to the Most High is supposed to look like, right? Like, nowhere was it ever given to any one person, group of people, rhythm of thought, doctrine, book. None of it. Never was anybody or anything given the authority to tell you or me what our connection to the Most High is supposed to look like. They're not supposed to be a hierarchy that's over us that determines whether or not we're worthy to have a direct connection to the Most High, the source, right? That doesn't resonate in my being as truth. It doesn't resonate as truth. And this is coming from somebody that was in a position for many years of my life, several decades, where I gave all my power away, thinking that these people they was the plug, right? Like they had the direct connection to source. And because my pursuit was always to be pleasing to the Most High and to live my purpose, like, I promise you, since my like early 20s, all I wanted to do was live my purpose, right? And I remember I was dating somebody at that time, And he asked me, I don't even remember the how we started, but the idea was I shared that I wanted to heal the world. Like, that was my purpose. Like, my purpose was to heal the world. And he asked me, how was you going to do that? And I said, one hug at a time, because the world will be healed through love, right? Love was the answer. Love was the key. And every person that I met, I would be an expression of love. And I didn't learn this way of thinking, or I'll say I didn't evolve into this way of thinking with this part I'm about to say until many years later. But at that time, that's what I said, right? However, my more mature understanding of that is that in me being the embodiment of source's love, then everybody that I touch is now exposed to the vibration of divine love. And then everybody that they touch, right, if they accept it and receive it, now it's a part of their frequency. It's part of their vibration. And then if they pick up different expressions on how to live that out in a way that resonates with them, then other people are experiencing it from them as well. So it's like, I can touch 5 people, but those 5 people can end up being 5,000, 50,000, 100,000, 200,000. Like, it can multiply, because each person is going to continue to touch people. So that's why I see myself as somebody who is sparking and embodying the love revolution, right? I feel like we're in a time now where if the world needed love any other time before now, this most certainly is a time to be recognized as love being needed, right? And I feel like if we allow it, a lot of the walls that separated us are being dissolved, right? And a lot of our innate embedded prejudices are coming to the surface for us to see them, evaluate them, and release them if that is our choosing. And that in addition to that, we are able to see more of what is happening across the globe instead of just what's happening in our city, right? So now we get to see more of what's happening in our state. We get to see more of what's happening on whatever coast we live on, whatever region we're in, and then every other coast and region as well, and then worldwide, right? So it allows for us to have more empathy, more, and I'm not really big on empathy. I like to say compassion. I like to say compassion, to have more compassion and understanding of other people's circumstances and situations and their lived experience, right? And then we're able to see the God, the Most High, in more than what's just in our immediate circumference, right? So there's so much for me to share. It's been, like I said, it's been so long since I actually sat down and recorded a video for like I used to. You know, in the beginning, I used to sit in my living room, and after the children were in the bed for the day and the house was quiet, and I used to set everything up and just sit in my living room and just share the energy that I was experiencing and translating it into words. And it's so funny because I didn't realize at the time the importance of what I was doing, right? So I look back at my old videos and I look at that version of me, and I'm so grateful to her, right? Because every time I hit record on those videos, I was so nervous. I was so nervous. However, I showed up anyway. When I tell you, the very first time I went live on Facebook, I was sitting in my room, and I was sitting in my chair. I had a little sitting area in my room, and I was sitting in my room, and I wanted to go live to share some things that was in my spirit, right? Some downloads that I had received that I didn't know was downloads, but just the energy. I was able to tap into the energy, and I felt it was important to share. And it was during COVID. It was at the very beginning, right before COVID actually, I think, really hit off. And my daughter was in my room. My oldest daughter was in my room to show me some moral support as I went live. And I was sitting there, stomach in knots, phone in hand, scared to death to hit that record button, hit that. Oh, and my daughter came over and she just hit it. She was so over me and me going back and forth with the I'm not ready, I'm not sure, I'm scared, and all of that. And she just hit the record button and I showed up, you know, and I showed up with that same courage, you know, every time. And that's part of what I was sharing before about, you know, this path requires courage, because you're going to have to come out your comfort zone. You're going to have to be who you truly are. You're going to have to do things that you've never done, because you've never been who you truly are, right? So you're going to have to come out your comfort zone. You're going to have to step out of the box. You're going to have to trust the process. And a lot of times, you not going to understand what is going on. You're not going to understand. You just going to know it resonates. It feels right, right? And in my experience, it has been like years later where it clicked or it came into full focus, that now I understand why I did, or why it resonated for me to do A, B, and C. And I'm just so grateful to me. I'm so grateful to the version of me, the expression of me, the young me that showed up nervous, scared, unsure if people were going to understand what she was talking about, unsure if people were going to listen, just so unsure, just so unsure. However, one thing I was sure about was my trust in the unseen, and I knew that the Most High had me, right? And even if I didn't understand the fullness of even what that meant, I knew that as long as I kept my heart pure and I did the best that I could in the circumstances and situations that I found myself in, that it was being recorded, right? And as long as I can go to sleep and be at peace with the decisions that I made, knowing that it was the best that I could do, that there was a reward for that, right? And I showed up for people. You know, I gave of myself. I gave of myself until my adrenals were exhausted, right? Until like my body was starting to break down because of me giving and doing. I was neglecting myself. And that actually was the beginning of the conscious process of me stepping into my remembrance, right? Getting closer to my remembrance. And you know, there's this book that's in my spirit to recommend to you if you haven't already read it. And if you have read it, I recommend you read it again. And read it not as just like a book of fiction. Read it as though it is a portal, right? A portal into the unseen realms. And that there is something in there waiting for you. You don't know what it is. However, you're willing to receive it. So every page you read, every chapter you complete, you're open to receiving what is in it for you. By the end of the book, I would appreciate if you came back to comment, did you receive something? And then I'm not saying it got to be big and grandeur, right? However, it could be a seed. It could be a spark. It could be a memory. It could be clarity. It could be comfort. It could be confirmation. It could be it could be the beginning of initiation. You know, it could be so many things. So I would love if you came back to share that with me. The book is called The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. I think that's how you say his name. And it's on Audible. If you're somebody that doesn't have time to sit down and read, and you drive in your car, you can listen to it on an audiobook, or washing dishes, or doing laundry, or whatever the case may be. You can listen to it on that book. On that book on Audible, or you can get the book. It's everywhere. It's on Amazon. And read that book. When I came across that book, I came across it at a time where I was deep in my hibernation. I had already experienced quite a bit spiritually, energetically, in my evolution and healing and clearing not only what was in my energetic field, in my body, in my lineage. I had already done quite a bit. And when I read that book, it was like I remember I read it, I listened to it all the way through the first day. And even the way that it came on my radar was divine, right? It was like I followed the breadcrumbs and it led me to the book, and I listened to the book, and it just resonated with my being so much. I listened to it all the way straight through the first day. And I kept saying, listening to the book, I could have wrote this, right? Like, I wouldn't have told a story the same way, but all of the principles that he's sharing in the book, I could have wrote that book. I could have wrote that book. And truthfully, a version of me could have wrote the book in another timeline, in another dimension. However, it was right on time for me in my journey where I was at, and the confirmations that I needed and the grounding that would support me in the next initiation that I was going through. So, like I said, it came in my spirit for me to share that with you. So if you haven't already read it, I recommend you read it. And yeah, I think I might end it there. I have my steel tongue drum that I like to play. I'm still mastering it, if you will. However, the sounds are just so resonant. They're so beautiful. So I'm going to play it a little bit, and then I'm going to go ahead out of here to allow you all to move on to the next form of righteous motion. I am grateful for you if you have watched and listened to this video and traveled with me through the different currents that opened up for me to share today. I'm grateful for you, and I'm proud of you. No matter where you are in your journey, I am proud of you, because I understand that this thing is not easy. You know, and there's many a days where you just want to give up, right? However, you already know what that feels like, right? Like you know where you're at. You know the low end. What we don't know is the higher end, the higher vibration, the higher realms that are available, right? The gifts, the rewards. So I encourage you to continue to push forward. On the days that you feel like you don't have anything left to give, lean on the Most High, lean on Spirit, trust that you're not alone. That's another thing I want to get into too. But I'll save that for another video. You are never alone. Even when physically everybody has cursed you, nobody believes you, nobody wants to be around you, nobody loves you, you don't have anybody to talk to, you're not alone. If you don't know that anybody else is with you, know that Source is with you, because Source is within you. You are a physical embodiment of Source, of the Most High, of God, however you say it. I say Source and Spirit because that's how I have come to know who I am. I am the embodiment, a physical embodiment of Source. Source energy, right? Source is the power that we all plug into, because I understand and I operate from the understanding that we are all energy. Everything that we see, everything is energy. And if in that being the truth, there has to be a source, right? Because even when you get energy and power to the computer, to the phone, it has to be plugged into something. It has to be plugged into an outlet that has a source of energy to give to whatever it is that you're plugging up. So it's the same thing. So when you feel that your energy is low and you feel like you want to give up, plug in the source. Plug into your source. Go within yourself and trust that everything that you need, you already have with you. And as you continue to put one step in front of the other, there are going to be situations, circumstances, opportunities, and individuals that are going to present themselves to you along your journey to remind you of who you are, to activate and inspire and initiate the remembrance within you, to reconnect to Source through your heart space so that you can remember, you know, who you are. Some people say awaken, right? Okay, you know, awaken is cool. However, I think after you awaken, it's like, okay, but now what? You know what I'm saying? But when you remember, so you'll know what to do because you remember. You know what I'm saying? So again, like I said, I'm gonna play the steel tongue drum just a little bit, you know, just a little bit, and then I'll conclude the video. And until the next time. Love, light, peace, and abundance, y'all. Until the next time.